It'll be effective July 1st.
So you would know the exact number after the budget was approved?
Correct, correct.
Okay, thank you.
So you said we're saving 380. Did I hear that number right?
Well,
I just,
we are, so in essence, if we didn't anticipate anyone coming back, then yes, this plan would save us $380,000.
okay, but we do anticipate
But we do
them coming back.
anticipate, correct.
So that means we're saving 17,000, roughly,
Yeah,
using
if you
these numbers.
subtracted the two numbers.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Are we
Which is minus the
connecting?
380 minus the 363.
Yes, so
No, because
there is no, so our budget is going up $363,182 due to the fact that we have these people
right,
coming
more
to the plan.
participants.
Correct.
But overall, the program was going to save us 380,000.
Would have.
Would
it?
Yes.
All right. Is
So
anyone
we-
else sufficiently confused, or is it just me? I don't want to
Well, I think
belabor it, but I think it's a
understand.
large sum of money
I'm
that I'm
sorry.
trying to
I think you
understand.
do you understand?
I do, I do,
Good.
because she budgeted $740,000
Okay, yep.
for people coming back on the plan. But look at it this way, it's only going to cost us $363.
Correct.
Yeah.
Instead of costing us $740, with
Okay.
all those people coming back, it's only gonna cost us $363.
Okay.
So we're saving $380 by
Okay.
going to the traditional
All right,
plan.
well, that makes sense. We just didn't connect, Mariana.
And we don't, there could be less that come back, but there could be a few more. So we're, just don't want to be coming back for an appropriation, halfway through the year, because our health insurance costs are skyrocketing. So last slide on 23, just an overall, if you didn't have those 5 key drivers this year, which were, again, very disheartening in this whole budget process, because we weren't able to put in some of our initiatives, they all got eliminated, we'd be bringing if we didn't have the initiatives in, we'd be bringing a 0.75% increase to you, not a 3.18% increase. So, we hope you'll factor all of that in. I just want to again reiterate, it's been a lot of hard work and effort, and a lot of people in this room that have put into this budget, and I want to thank them again for all their effort. So I'll join Marianne at the table, and we'll go through any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. So I think we're ready to start asking questions, and I think because Jason typically says everybody's already asked his questions, I'm gonna start from the right this time. Are you in a position to start, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to stick with what we were just kind of talking about. My one question on the State Partnership 2.0 plan is, you talk about the other unknowns of the insurance costs going up with the previous plan that we have. What's the guarantee, or the State Partnership plan, how do we know that we're not going to get the fluctuation in premium increases or that we see in our current insurance plan?
The state's trends have been, is it 3 to 5%? Has it been 5?
5% increase for a couple of years, then it went to, I think, like 6 or 7, and this latest year it was 8%. So the anticipation is that we're not going to have that huge fluctuation. You also have a large pool of people, so if there's something catastrophic or something that happens in one organization where their claims are really high, it'll be smoothed out by all the other participants, and there's quite a few more districts and towns moving to the plan, so you're just building up the pool. So it's a lot more difficult when you have a small pool like we do and you have large claims. There's nothing really to offset it versus when you have such a large pool.
Right.
More stability. in
Yeah, the larger
There
pool.
have been increases, but much more ability to absorb.
Yeah, it's a little bit more linear versus up and down. So what have our average, increases been previously? Like, let's say if we took a 5-year snapshot, would it say, was it 8% on average? Is
For us?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in 5 years' time. Yeah, when I feel like maybe I brought the bad apple. When I came into district 4 years ago, I think I was sitting on like a 4% increase from the previous year, but then it jumped. I think we went up to like 11% or 12%, and then we skyrocketed from there. 16.
Last year was 28%,
Yeah, 28%. So,
as you know.
Right, right. Yeah, that's it for me for right now.
And then, one
Yeah.
other piece, and the other item is that we've, into all of our memorandums that we've written up with our collective bargaining, we have the ability, if the increase in the state plan goes up more than, is it 7% above trend? I think if it goes up 7 or 8% above trend, then we have the option to reopen and look at it and decide whether it's still the right option for us or whether we should go out to bid and perhaps look at other options.
Back to being self-insured again.
Sure.
Right, right. And it seems to be that it's actually a better health insurance plan for the employees.
That's the bottom
and
line,
people.
yeah,
That's-
exactly. It's a better plan for everybody involved.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That's it for now.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Ann, if you're ready.
Yes, I am, thanks.
Please.
I'm going to finish my question, begin my questions with finishing up on this topic of the health insurance, because I did have a couple there, and then I'll begin at the beginning. So, your contract, the 2.0 contract with the state, is that a year-to-year? So what you're saying is that if you experience this high cost, then you can somehow get around the year terms or what, the term of the contract. Is that what you're saying?
There's a 3-year, it's a 3-year contract.
Okay.
If we had to, if we decided to come out, there would be a penalty, so we'd obviously have to weigh that. If the cost was so
Okay.
high, we would obviously have to weigh then also what the penalty would be, as the
Okay.
town and board as a whole.
I see.
Would need to evaluate that.
But it's a helpful provision to have. It gives
It
you
is
some
helpful.
flexibility.
Correct. It
Okay.
is helpful.
So, along the lines of flexibility and all, and I think I did ask this at maybe one of the workshops that we had on the budget, but have you considered incentivizing teachers or others to not join, or your non-teacher staff? And have you done any calculations that may show that may, giving X amount of dollars ends up, in savings, so to speak? Oh, if you anticipate a very high number of people coming back.
Yeah, I mean, there are some in place now through some of the collective bargaining groups, but we have not moved forward as of yet to kind of create a, what might it look like for this other group over here? So we have not gotten that far yet, no, but
Okay.
there is some in place now.
So maybe
It's
once
currently-
you know your number, at that point, that calculation might be something that you might
Definitely something to
consider.
look at, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right, well, thanks for that. I'll begin at my beginning set of questions, okay? I won't have to come back to health insurance, but, so I have a general question, a couple of general questions. One is the minimum budget requirement that we have in the state of Connecticut. And could you, Jeff and/or Mariana, clarify for the benefit of the board and the benefit of the public generally, because this sometimes, comes up, what is our status with that requirement? So are we, for example, in the top 10% of all districts concerning the accountability index score so that we're not subject to a minimum budget requirement? Or are we in that other category where we consider last year's budget and we adjust with the education grant? So do you have ultimate flexibility, or are you confined, I guess is my point.
No,
I think
it hasn't been, honestly, in my 4 years here, it hasn't come up as being,
It hasn't come up.
an issue at all,
So-
no.
So your
Yep.
status with respect to that requirement isn't entirely clear, is what my question is.
So each year I file a report with the state with regard to our budget, and then they evaluate it.
Okay.
I do not believe we are confined only because we would have been notified that in another district
Okay.
previously, that we would get a notice
So
from the
that,
state.
yeah, so I guess it'd just be good to know. I mean, I think it would be good to know for the board, good to know for the public. What is our status with respect to that? What's our, state mandate, if you will? We like to use that word a lot, but it would be good to know that with some certainty, Okay, then my second general question is, when the Board of Education considers the budget that that you and Jeff and others have put forth at that, your meeting in January, where you do this presentation, and then the board votes on it. At that point, has the Board of Ed seen like something like this budget document? So they've seen the line-by-line type of information that we get and that we consider, and that's important to our oversight.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens that evening when I present. We give them their budget
Okay.
binder. So everything that we have, down to the budget detail, is given to them. Usually, it's not a lot of discussion, that evening after I present. They take everything back with them, and at the next Board of Ed meeting, we open it up for discussion. But I'll tell you what has worked very well for us, in my opinion, and I think our Board of Ed would agree, as I've gotten some positive feedback on it, is the utilization of the budget workshops. Because, when I'm up there presenting in January, they know what number I'm coming forth. They know the rationale and the reasons for why
Okay.
our requested increase is the requested increase. So it is no surprises. It makes it much easier. But
Okay.
they get this that evening.
Okay, that's good. It's just that I actually went to that meeting and I couldn't tell that, so
Oh, so, yeah,
and so
they-
there was a kind of a leap I had to make in my head that they'd all seen something I hadn't seen, so, okay, that's fine. Okay, I want to spend a moment or two, if I could, on revenue. So if we could go to the booklet, and I believe it's on page 24. Just FYI, just this year, the definition sheet was not included. So, at some point, it might be just good to have that in this whole budget process. I mean, I went back to last year's book, but the definitions of your various grants, it's not that it makes a tremendous difference, but it's just kind of a good reference. Okay. Okay, I had so your total revenue that you're showing, that you're projected or requested, is about 10.0114 million. Okay. The excess cost grant that I see, about a third of the way, the page down there, at $375,000. So I see that, yet in the presentation, and I'll have to go back to where that is, maybe in special education chart here. I see that you say that there's a reduction in the excess cost of $205,000. So does this $375,000 reflect that?
There's got to be more involved in this number, the 375. That was on the special ed slide. Let me show.
You actually show a higher
Higher
excess
number.
cost grant actually in the 2017-18 year.
What slide was that on, Ann?
Okay, I'm looking, slide on page 20 of the handout, towards the back of the,
Okay.
and it's at the very top under the
Right.
title issue.
Yeah, good question, Ann.
Because that's an important amount of money. And I think I'd just like to know
So in
what it is.
In 16-17, we actually got roughly 600,000, so I think that's where that 205 is coming from versus the 17-18 number. 18-19, in 18-19, I'm projecting that we're only gonna get 375. So, that, it really, the decrease is, the 420, from 17-18 to 18-19.
Okay, so it's not really a decrease over our previous fiscal year.
Correct. It's just
Okay.
we have slowly been receiving declining
Right.
reimbursement in our excess
Yes.
cost grant.
As the ECS grant also diminishes in its size. Okay, so some clarity on that. Okay, so that kind of changes perhaps some of those issues with respect to special ed. I will come back to special ed on the expenditure side, but on the revenue side, I just wanted some clarification. Okay, so for things like integrated preschool, creative play school, before and after care, where are we in terms of revenue, if any? And I know these programs are run through the district, but for example, just, a million years ago, my children went to creative play school. So I know I paid a fee, for them to go. So where are we? Are we generating any income out of those programs?
There is some that's generated, and that money's going back to pay for some of the staff that are part of those programs. Take, Creative, for instance. We've done a lot of work with that program over the last year or two. Brought it in-house under our own domain, but we had to hire a certified staff member to be part of it by state requirement. So the money that you take in is covering the costs and offsetting the
So
salary.
would you, in your own budgeting documents that are, obviously you have things beyond this budget booklet for us, so do you is it sort of a wash then in each of these programs? Well, I know that you have a larger expenditure for the integrated preschool, I saw that separate budget, but that doesn't generate any income. Let's take that one, for example.
I mean, it depends on the program. It might be generating some, but we're putting it back into the program for the most part
Okay.
to support, the students
Okay.
and the need
So
for students.
if we're at a point where we have several questions from board members, that's a figure I'd like to see. I'd like to see, that income, does that amount to anything? I mean, so we're not in generalities here, and we know that offsetting, I believe that program was about $500,000 in your expenditure side, the integrated preschool. So if there's anything that offsets that, that would be lovely to see. Same thing with creative or before and after care.
So creative and before and after care are
Nothing.
off budget, there is nothing, well, they're not part of our operating budget. Any revenue that
Okay.
comes in is
So they're
offset by expense.
self-sustaining in that way.
Correct, they're
Okay.
self-sustaining, so it's not
Okay.
the same as integrated preschool.
Okay, so then I'd like to see at least that figure. That would be helpful in terms of revenue. Okay. So, then I guess my third general question, and I'll try to jump through my list of other questions and give my colleagues time to ask questions, and you can come back to me later. But, let's see. Do you have a contingency account that you work out of at all? I mean, even just for flow of monies? Okay.
No.
Okay. Just a thought in my head. Okay. So a question I had concerns your capital improvement plan for the 10 years. And that booklet was, digging in my Board of Ed booklets, was this one, I guess, the State of the District booklet. So I see that you have, for example, budgeted for this year, quite a bit if you stick to that plan. And there's a $44,000 amount suggested for technology. Is that included in your technology request that you're making, your
You're talking,
technology
CIP,
increase?
CIP acquisition. Yeah, that's part of our operating
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
So that's in
It's a different
leases,
quote.
so when Anna
She
does
gave
the
it out.
acquisition
She gave it out a
plan,
couple months ago.
she finances that you guys approve at some point during the year. She
Okay.
will finance both town and board, and then allocates a percentage, an amount to the board, and that's covered in our leases
Okay.
account. So we pay that back monthly.
Okay.
So that's included there.
It is, okay.
Yes.
So just generally speaking, another question I have that might be answered is, when you've had your, various topics like your special ed, your technology, and these other items, so when I actually had a copy of this in advance because I had gone to the meeting, so I did use it, but sometimes I couldn't always take your description and then, find the line items, that would be applicable in your budget booklet. So without making it, too much in the weeds, it would be really helpful, to see that your request for $114,000 for XYZ, is addressing these certain items. Because sometimes within your, and this is not a criticism, it's just the way you have so much you're operating, your line items sometimes overlap. And I don't know if I'm looking at a line item that's addressing one of these major concerns. So that would be super helpful for those 5 things, okay? Because I did kind of have to do this a lot, okay? And then I'm just going to come back to special ed, because I had a couple of questions there, and then I'll let my colleagues have some time because I don't want to suck up all the oxygen here. Okay.
Use all the oxygen you want.
All right. Special ed, okay. So we see, Jeff, and you had mentioned this at a number of meetings, it looks like we're going to have more outplacements and more transportation as a consequence.
We already do.
We do. Starting this year.
Had budget for it because the students came, yeah.
So a question I have is, you've given some numbers for what is our percentage, 13, 14%.
Yeah, we're sitting around 13-14%.
So you have about 420 special ed students at the moment, most of whom stay within district, and there's a therapeutic plan for them.
Depending on their
Depending on what it
disability. Yeah,
is.
It's, yep. there is a
Okay.
disability.
So do you have a higher number going into 1920, into that fiscal year? Do you have a higher number of these students, more than the 420? So where is the addition? I mean, I'm thinking more students, more outplacements, more transportation. Am I correct or no?
No, I mean, no, our total overall special ed population really is relatively flat right now. It's up
Okay.
a little bit, but we're relatively flat. What has gone up is a few more of the outplacements, and the outplacements are significant expenses. So that's what you're seeing as
Okay.
we look at next year's budget, because
So that population of students is approximately the same, but your
Exactly.
outpatient,
the
your
outplaced
outplacement,
population,
sorry.
yes, yeah. And some of those, are uncontrollable. A student moves into district that's already been outplaced. We inherit the student's individualized education plan, and we pick up the bill now because they've moved into district. So that's,
Okay,
that happens too.
okay.
And
And
there's
there's
nothing we
very,
can do about it.
right, and there's very little to mitigate that
Yeah, at that point, yeah,
situation.
you don't until, the next annual review comes around, and then you talk about the child's plan.
Okay. Are you sharing some costs with Waterford or other towns depending on where these students are going? Is that helping at all?
A little, yes. We're trying to do that. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly how many. We have a number of, there's like 11, at least 11 vehicles that are traveling, vans that are traveling with students. I don't know of how many are being shared, and that's just the 11 that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Jim Davis, our student services director, we could get that
Yeah, that would be
information from him.
helpful
Yeah,
to know as
absolutely.
we're trying to,
Yep.
wrap our arms around the high cost of the special education needs. Okay. And that 1.0 FTE quota, is that mandated by state statute? And within your program of integrated preschool? And it's something you don't have and have to have?
Well, yeah, we need more support, for occupational therapy support for students. So yes, IEPs drive that, those needs. Yep.
Okay. All right, let me just quickly look at my other list and then I'll be done for a bit. Let's see. I had some line-by-line questions. So I see some very high costs when I look at the administration's budget, separate from the other budget, from this budget summary. Very, high, it's like a 9-point-something% increase. So I'm gonna find that page so we can look at it. Okay, so we have,
Where are you, Ann?
I'm on page 18 in our budget booklet, and I'm specifically looking at administration total salaries, and I'm seeing 9.10%, and I think I looked at last year's budget booklet and it was 0.9%. So what's driving that? Let's talk about that a little bit, if we could.
Yes, that's where, we'll look at it.
I had that question too, Ann.
Oh, right, okay. that may just be, you know, it may be a matter of certain contracts renegotiated, I don't know, but it seems rather large. So,
It's got the addition, the non-certified, the 112.
Who is this population? Non-certified administrators.
so that would be category 112, secretaries, custodians.
Yeah, if you look on page 3, it breaks it
Yeah,
down
this,
by,
this isn't, yeah, go ahead, Bill, one second.
I was just saying on page 3, because, I mean, we all have the same question, which we had last year as well. It seems like administrative fees continue to grow faster than teacher salaries or other things. I had the same question coming out of page 3, where administrative salaries increased 2.72%, but the cumulative growth for all salaries is 1.29%.
So the part of that one, so it's not administrators entirely,
Not just
it's
administrators.
administration office, so it's like
Right.
central office.
Right.
So that 112 org, there's an amount that I built into there because we are going through secretary negotiations. So I estimated what I thought we might spend as an increase without putting an amount in there, because as we go through negotiations, you don't necessarily want to, the budget is a public document, so you don't want to put out what you're anticipating when you're negotiating, because then you kind of lose some.
Tip your hand.
You don't want to tip your hat,
Tip your
thank you. So that's why, that's part of it, so that includes that and their.
But that's kind of high, right? 9.33 for a
But
salary increase?
that includes, so I put all, so if you look at the other lines, all of these secretaries, so for the Flanders, for all of the other locations, I put that increase in the administration line, and then we would do a budget transfer once things were finalized. I would transfer out of that line into the Flanders, Lily B., the high school. They have several, some secretaries there. So
Right.
that's why you see a large amount
But
in
it's still a
that
percentage
account.
though, right?
It's a
Whether
percentage.
whether the percentage is in one spot or for each school,
Correct.
9.33%.
It's not 55,000. The portion that I put aside for that is 35,000.
35.
35,000.
Yeah, you've got security in there as well, almost 27,000.
That's what I thought was
That's
driving it,
right,
was the
and then
new
the
safety
security.
people.
Yeah, you got safety people, security, yeah.
And I think that's the answer. Part of the answer to your question is it includes the new safety people, which is bumping up the overall operating budget, which makes it look like a % increase because he's assuming he's gonna add several new higher paid safety people. And bump them up to the higher rate and add more people. So I think that's where the growth comes from, or part of the growth.
That's part of it, yeah.
Okay, I will, okay, and then there's other things I noticed, but I will ask this question. I see that your audit is costing $3,000 more for next year. So is that just your auditing firm is asking
So
for
that's-
additional fees, or is there any
That's
reason?
the portion that's allocated to us. Anna we don't hire the auditing firm, the town does.
Okay, so you are using
So,
our.
oh, yes, but we're
Okay.
part of that. So, and
Okay.
this year, actually, we're paying 15,000
Okay.
in 18-19. I had
Okay,
estimated
good to know.
13 because that's what we paid the year before,
Okay.
so.
All right. There's always a story behind the numbers, but it's hard to, we have to see a line item. It's very hard to discern that. Okay. Last question. Transportation is up 8.16%, and I know that contract with First Student was renegotiated. So, and we've been able to save because there's 2 fewer buses that will be, we will not be needing because of the redistricting routes or whatever. So, can you tell me before and after rate with First?
Well, we haven't finalized
You haven't
any.
finalized
Yeah, we haven't
it.
finalized
Okay.
anything yet. We're still in the process of deciding whether
Okay.
to finalize with them or to go out to bid.
Okay.
So we're still working on that, but the reason you see, I think, majority of those increased costs is the special education transportation costs.
Okay, so you- I see, but
jump.
but those,
But-
these numbers look like they might be fluid if you don't stay with first student,
Yeah,
or
we're-
there's some other negotiation more
Yeah,
favorable
You're gonna,
to you.
I think you're gonna see about 2.5 to 3% increase overall, whether we're with first student next year or not, just for our transportation. That's
Okay.
not including special education.
So does
Okay.
510 include special ed? 510? 510, I'm sorry, 510 increased 10%, and that's what I was trying to figure out the logic of why you're removing buses, but expenses going up 10%. The two kind of
Right, I had the same question.
felt counterintuitive.
Okay. And if you get,
Page 4.
have you been able to discern in any way that other bus companies have very similar rates? Have you, and before going out to bid or anything like that, but just
Yeah.
knowing what you know?
Exactly. We've done a lot of work and a lot of discussions with the Board of Ed on that, and actually we're trying to bring back some final recommendations to the Board of Ed in
Yeah.
the next meeting or two.
Okay.
To finalize what we want to do moving
Okay.
forward. We're working to get the best rate. We've had a lot of great success with first student as it pertains to the service that
Yeah,
we've been providing.
I mean, the level of service and their safety and so forth is just as important as, obviously the money you're spending for them, so. Okay, so I'll stop there, and then I have a couple of others, but you probably will cover them as we go down the line, so.
So I should either start with you or end with you, because you seem to have a very thorough list. Camille, you ready to go?
There's more coming.
Yeah, there's more,
Yes.
but it's okay, I think you will cover them, and you covered some while the presentation was happening, so that's great.
Okay. You ready to go?
Yes.
Please do.
I believe I heard tonight that there are 5 initiatives that you wanted to include in the budget that were not included.
Well, there was a few, yeah. There's the 5 key drivers for what negatively impacted us cost-wise. There was a handful of initiatives that we were looking at. For instance, we were hoping to bring in some math coaches to support some of our work at the elementary level.
I'm sorry, did you say math coaches?
Math coaches we were looking at. Yeah, actually, there's a new initiative.
Section D.
tab. Yep.
I think it's
I'm sorry, what page is that? What
23.
section?
I was
Section
gonna ask
D,
the same question, Camille.
page 23.
Yeah, there's.
Section D, page 23.
That's the 3 big ones, right?
Yep, you can see
Yeah, 20.
down at the bottom of that page, we're looking at the potential for an HR coordinator. With so many changes and all the difficulties we've seen other districts get in with DCF and certifications, et cetera. We do a good job with that, but we were hoping to bring in an HR coordinator because we don't have anybody supporting our HR right now. We do it at the central office combined. Then the math consultants we're looking at, and additional technology staffing, which we reduced and cut out. We're going with the bare bones to get us forward into next year, and the summer work is what's most important right now.
So when you started with the 5% budget, Jeff,
5.56, yep.
these initiatives were not even in there.
No, they were.
They were.
Those were in there, yes. But
Okay, so
that's
then-
when we, through the budget workshop process, too high, and we ended up removing them, unfortunately. So they would still be in there if we didn't have those other 5 key drivers of costs.
Okay, so that's not exactly what I had in mind when I was thinking initiatives. When I hear initiatives, I think of programs like full-day kindergarten, or
We have that.
I know we have that.
Yeah.
But there's nothing of that scale that's coming down the pike that we would have to consider?
The math consultants was really kind of a full program, would be a full program.
Yeah.
Introduced into the elementary schools and then carried into the up into the middle school. So that would have the staffing required to be something like that.
We have one at the elementary level right now that covers across 3 buildings. We wanted to outfit so we'd have one at each of the elementaries and then one at the middle school as well.
And that has nothing to do with special education, that's just an additional.
That's more of almost an SRBI, support for students that are not special education, but also that are on the cusp, per se, of they could become special education. We provide, try and provide some services, but also coaching for our teachers, implementing, we've got a new math program at the elementary level, started 2 years ago, so helping to coach them, integrating technology integration into their lessons, that sort of thing.
Okay.
On the reading and literature side, literacy side of what support you get.
Yeah, I mean, we have, Amy, you wanna come up and share a little bit as it pertains to some of our literacy components too? And we have a robust literacy, support network. We've got literacy consultants. We don't have anything at the math level. Obviously, students need to learn how to read first. And we've got some supports in those areas and some coaching that goes on. We're trying to replicate some of that at the math level. Some of our math scores across the state are lower than we feel they should be.
Right, so when you think about initiative, I would say math growth across the district was the initiative. When you look at human resources, the initiative is really talent management structure and supporting more of a talent management structure. That's the initiative for that. And then when you look at technology, you look at front end and back end, holistic, comprehensive technology support and integrated technology in the classroom as the third initiative. We currently have 5 literacy specialists across our district in order to support them, as well as some reading recovery staff as well. And in the math, we have 1 math coach supporting our 3, and we have no one at middle or high. So it's an equity of the literacy support versus the math support that we offer across the district.
So does not hiring or going with this initiative of hiring these math consultants put us in a disadvantage or not a competitive position relative to other school districts? Or is everybody in the same boat?
No, we're actually behind most other districts. You look that have, simple, take Waterford again, forget how many they had, but they have consultants at those levels for math, for language arts. We're not moving forward, let's say. It's status quo. It could help us really improve, the work that teachers are doing in the classrooms, as well as potentially improve our math scores.
Yeah, the short answer to that is yes.
But okay.
From a
But we're
curriculum
still
standpoint.
scoring very competitively in terms of standardized testing in the math area.
Less competitively than we are in the language arts areas.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so over time, we've seen in trend data, especially with our standardized test scores, that they have decreased, that we do have cohorts of students of which we are not seeing the growth targets that we'd like to do. So this is our way of focusing more on intervention, getting those students and those cohorts of students that we're seeing in trending and supporting more quality core instruction earlier to be able to close in those gaps and not be sort of dealing with those later on in their secondary education.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
If you'd like to add them back in, we will,
Well,
gladly take
I'm
them.
looking at the trend data of the enrollment status, and I'm thinking if you need to repurpose some teachers,
Yeah, we're trying to be creative in those areas too. So we're trying to think outside the box, but it just wasn't something that happened, and we'll see what next year brings.
Yeah. And I'm serious about repurposing also, because this leads me into my next question. You're gonna have to help me out here, Jeff, or Marianne, I'm not really following the data points on the enrollment numbers. So if I look at page 11 of your presentation, I'm looking for validation of my thought process here. As of October 1st, 2018, we actually had 2,699 students, K through 13.
Yep, that's the 18-19 current school year.
And so you're projecting an increase to 2,817 by October 1st
Of next year,
19?
of next year. And remember, that's all all preschool students, that's 18 to 21 transition students, that's all of our population. Not
But-
just K to 12.
So when I go to the individual graphs for
Mhm.
elementary, middle, and high school, I can't get to that number.
We took the high-end number of the next 3 slides.
So maybe
added-
point those high
and-
ends
and
out to me.
added
'cause
those high-end numbers together
Maybe you can
to
point,
get that.
if you could just
that
tell me
number.
what those high ends are for 19, because maybe I'm not aligning my grid properly here. I can't get to that number.
If you took it the 961? I know these are tough to see, 767?
Okay, 961, let me back up a second here. That looks like it's 3 years out, though. That looks like a 2020 or
Where's that?
2021.
I see
Does-
+5 if you use the green and +15 if you use
Yeah,
the.
we're using the
blue.
we use the high-end number. Remember, I said that during the presentation. These are the highest, when you look out to 27, the end, 27, 28, that's the highest projected amount that we could have overall across. Is it going
But-
to be that? I don't know, but that's the highest Malone McBroom projected out when you add all of them together.
I understand, and I'm trying to take the highest numbers, but for 2019, my grid aligns with the high number's 885.
Yeah, maybe it would have been easier if you had, like, lines going up to match. Which one?
Well, the
again?
solid black is actual data. So if I start at the left-hand side of the grid, 981, that's 2009. And then I go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And October 1st, 2019, I'm getting a high of 885.
Well, 19 is 1920, so if you look from the start from the beginning, 13 is 13-14 year, and then 14-15 year. It goes out that way, so you might be a year behind. Or you might
Okay.
be a year ahead, I'm sorry. You might be a year ahead when you're calculating that number.
Okay, I'm not gonna look at this anymore, I'm just gonna have you tell me. October 1st, 2019, elementary school is 961.
Elementary school,
The high end is,
1920, I'm looking between 885 and 961 at the high end. That's the number I'm looking at, between 1819 and 1920. Those are the two numbers, those two little numbers at the very top there, 885 and 961. 885 is the red, 961 is the blue. We went with on the higher end for all the calculations, just so we could get a,
okay, so 961.
and it gets harder as you're in the middle school, because they're all blended together. But we went with the top, we're looking at the top numbers.
So that becomes easier because it's less spread, not harder.
So-
752,
I
right?
guess you could look at 750, well, yeah, 752, or, yeah, 752. Go with it.
767.
And you're sure that's not 2021?
I see 767,
Yeah, 767.
yeah, line up with 1920.
767. Okay, and then the high school,
And then the high school, you're looking at 1920,
1040.
I'm looking at, yeah, and 1040.
all right.
That's like a big mess.
And if you want to, we can go back to Malone's room and get the exact, we're trying to,
Yeah. So if I add those numbers up that you just gave me, I get to 2768,
Right. Agreed.
which is less than what's being shown on the consolidated graph of 2870.
2817. But what you don't have in there is you don't have pre-K, and you don't have the 18 to 21-year-old.
Yeah, you gotta add those.
Remember, this first slide is the entire population. That's why your numbers are higher too. Malone and McBroom, these scenarios are just for your elementary K to 4, just for your middle school. They're not factoring in any preschool. They're not factoring. So you've got 60 to 70 preschool students in addition to 18 to 21-year-old program as well.
Right, but I'm trying to compare apples to apples. So when I look at the numbers that I had last year, I had 2694. This says 2699. Okay, so that included pre-K and the 18 to 21 also.
Exactly.
Still, So you're telling me that the difference between 2768 and 2817 is preschool and the
27,
18 to 21-year-olds?
68 and you're on 28. Yeah, that should be the difference. If you're counting between this first slide and the other ones that follow, yes, you're absent the preschool and you're absent the 18 to 21-year-old population.
That's 49. Does that sound about right?
Roughly.
49 preschoolers?
We have a count right now of 50 to 60. Yeah, 57. But again, October 1, now we're in March.
Okay.
It fluctuates
Yeah.
as well. 18 to 21-year-old program fluctuates as well, the students.
Okay. All right, clears it up a little bit. The budget last year that was approved had an ECS number of 5,851,000. And I see we're on track this year to collect 6,449,000. So that's gonna give us a difference of about, or an additional cash inflow of about 600,000. Can you account for that increase